Ashwin, first and foremost, once again on behalf of Pearl Academy, thank you so much for joining us.
I started working alongside my father from age 13, 14 onwards, because I used to go in for a few hours even during my school days and college days. But what was happening in parallel was my maternal granduncle, who lived in Kanpur, was not only a great businessman, he owned textile mills, but he was also very fond of reading and writing. He was multilingual, English, Hindi, Persian, Urdu, Sanskrit, and a host. I think he spoke and read 8 or 9 languages. And he had a library in Kanpur which ran into probably about 5 to 10,000 books. And he would lovingly send me one book every week. He would handpick that book and send it to me. And he expected me to read the book and send him back a letter telling him what I had read, whether I liked it, didn't like it. It was the earliest form of doing a book review. And that was a tradition which carried on for some 13, 14 odd years, during which time he sent me a little over 300 books. I didn't know it, but the hard wiring of my brain in some ways was going on at that time. I grew up thinking that I was a businessman, but the truth of the matter is that creative spirit had already started within me.
When I read Rosabelle line, the first name that came to my mind was Dan Brown. And then I realized I was not the only one. Everyone who read you thought you were India's Dan Brown. I don't think it's a big compliment, or I don't think it's an insult. What Dan Brown writes in America
Absolutely.
And Buddha made was what they compared, because you had, like Dan, the knack of taking fiction or mythology or the past or a legend of the past, and then contemporarizing it so that events in the present linked with what had happened in the past.
Absolutely.
A spectacular denouement. But have you ever met Dan Brown?
Yes, I have actually. In the year 2014-15, Dan was invited to India by Penguin Random to deliver the so-called annual Penguin Lecture, which happens in both Delhi and in Mumbai. So Penguin came back to me and said, Ashwin, rather than him simply just talking, why not have a situation where you are in conversation with him? And so we had this very interesting conversation on stage, which lasted for about an hour. And then after that, once we were done, then Dan turns around and asks me, what are you up to for dinner? So I said, I've got my evening free. So he said, well, let's go somewhere, take me somewhere. So I said, okay, let's just go across to the Oberoi. That would probably be the safest. So we went and sat down at the Oberoi, and we were there from about 9 o'clock at night till about 2 in the morning. We were talking about anything and everything that excited us and stories that had excited us. And somewhere towards around 12:30 or 1, he said, what do you think is God? What is God? And I took one of those little pads from the waiter and pulled out my pen, and I said, G is equal to infinity minus K. So he looked at it and he said, what is that? So I said, G is what we call God. And infinity is the entire universe. Everything, known, unknown, it's the universe. And K is the extent of human knowledge. So I said, what we don't know about the universe, we attribute to God. So therefore, it's infinity minus K. So the Egyptians didn't know what the sun was. They saw it rise in the east, set in the west. They thought it was the sun god Ra, who travels across the sky in his chariots. And when it is night, he gets tired and he goes to sleep, and we have night. And, so there's no more light left. But later on, of course, Galileo and Copernicus and everyone came along. And poor Ra lost his divine status, because now we could understand what Ra was. But he said, Ashwin, this is very interesting, because this is a lot like what I talk about in terms of the God of the gaps, that the gaps of human understanding are where God is. And I said, you know what, Dan, what's very interesting is the fact that any equation which will have infinity on one side will be indeterminate. So G equal to infinity minus K will be an indeterminate result. So in that sense, we are very, very lucky to have infinity there, because that means that you will never be able to explain God.
True. We should accept it and be happy. Let's not try to explain. I've always told that to my students. God is undiscovered science. Science is what we've already discovered about God.
Absolutely.
So, Ashwin, thank you very much. Not just on my side, heartfelt gratitude. I've had so much fun this last 1 hour. On behalf of every single one of us at Pearl, thank you very much, Ashwin. God bless.
Thank you.
God bless.
Take care.